Hello there. Today I want to tell you about Journey of Lifetimes. Now, one of the most enjoyable things for me about doing the shamanic training with people is when we get to this point in the training. So anyone who's trained has by this point got a really clear understanding of shamanic cosmology. They know how to journey, and they've done a number of journeys to the lower world and the upper world, and they've done negative energy release. They will have done soul retrieval and possibly some other shamanic practices too. And when I get the nod from the guides and the helpers, it's the journey of lifetimes that we go on. And the reason why it has such a special place in my heart is because the only time I've ever had this experience is once when I was fully initiated into the presence of my helpers in my shamanic world, and second, every time I was to training. So I don't get to do this journey at any other time at all. And that might sound strange, but that is the way it's set up. And I can understand why, because it's such a special experience and I learn so much each time. And the fact that it's something I can't just do whenever I feel like it means that I value and appreciate it so much more. So what I'm going to do, and I'm very surprised about this, I'm going to tell you about this because I didn't think I'd ever explain or share this with anyone who wasn't being trained, but it came up recently. One of the people I'm training, it's going to be his time to do this journey quite soon, and I was mentioning about information about it, and he said yeah, he'd like to know a bit more. And I've never done that. I just usually spring it on people with no warning, but because I listen and I do as I'm told, as instructed by the guides and helpers, when the change is made clear to me, I follow that. So what we do is we're in the journeying mode. I'm doing the drumming and the person or people I'm training are lying down on something soft and comfortable on the floor with a pillow if they want. They may have their eyes with a blindfold on, or they may not, but their eyes are closed whichever way, and I'm inducing the trance state in the way that I do. And rather than them doing the journey on their own, as is normally the case, because normally I would explain how to do a journey, then they do the journey, but this is different. It's a guided journey, and that makes a big difference. And we start off by being aware of being in the body, in the healing room, and with our active imagination we leave our bodies behind and we go on this journey, and we leave the room, the building, the environment, the country. We travel upwards, up, and we travel up into the heavens, out into the solar system, and out into the cosmos. And we travel all the way, because you might not be aware of this, but our location in the Milky Way galaxy, we're in the outer suburbs. That's the best way to describe it. So we travel at increasing velocity in a very specially designed vehicle, which is created by the helpers. And we travel right through the globular star cluster, which is the core of the Milky Way galaxy, all the way through the galaxy and out the other side into what I call the intergalactic void, which is the space between the galaxies. And we travel to a relatively nearby galaxy, which is called the Andromeda galaxy. Now this is my spiritual home, if you like. It's where all the helpers come from. It's where they live, where they move, where they have their being. And there are 2 planets in one particular binary star system. And we begin our journey of lifetimes by having a thorough exploration of these 2 planets. Now, the way we get to do this journey, other than being in this special vehicle created by the helpers, and there's something I explained in the training, there's a particular sacred geometrical structure which is called a vortex. Now, a vortex really is part of a bigger structure called a torus, and that's how we travel. However, last year particularly, I was given a whole load more silent knowledge drops about the way shamans travel. And when we're traveling in the cosmos, what we do is we are actually traveling through what I call the intergalactic cosmic mycelium superhighway. So this is going to take a bit of explanation. So when I do my Qigong, at the end of the Qigong practice, I do a very simple visualization, and I'm standing upright erect, and I'm spreading my hands out and connecting with my imagination to the earth. And when I do that, I'm connecting to the mycelium, which is that ramifying connection of tubes, which is the fungi. So all the fungi in the world, particularly the mycorrhiza, connect all the plant life together. So we particularly think about this with the trees, think about the field, the savanna, all the different places, all the plants that are growing. All those plants have got roots, and the roots have got mycorrhiza. Mycorrhiza is a fungus which connects all the roots together. So I connect in my active imagination with the spirit of the fungi through their mycelium. So let me explain this another way. If you can think of mushrooms coming up in a field, whether magic or otherwise, what you need to understand is just below the surface of the soil, you've got these threads which are white and they spread out in all directions. That is the mycelium, and these threads literally connect everywhere to everywhere else on the earth. And this is part of a way to understand the supreme intelligence of Gaia, the earth, our beautiful planet. From a shamanic perspective, this is not a ball which we are standing walking on. It is actually a completely vibrant being, and some people regard Gaia to be a goddess energy. It's another way to describe the energy of the earth. So the mycelium is a scientific explanation and a way to understand, because it connects all of the plant kingdom together. Well, as below, so above. I think it's time to put a hemp log on the fire. There we go. And drink some more water. So there is also a mycelium which extends from Gaia, from the earth, out into the cosmos, out to our star, the sun, also called Sol, and then out and connects all of the hundreds of billions of stars in our Milky Way galaxy. And these threads extend out into the intergalactic void, which is the space between the galaxies. It's the ultimate darkness from the perspective of our universe. So we've got the darkness between the stars, but much, much more intense than that, we've got a darkness between the galaxies. So each galaxy is made of hundreds of billions of stars, and there are hundreds of billions of galaxies in the universe, and they are all connected by this fantastic, amazing web of threads and filaments. And this is how shamans obtain access to all information. It's not just shamans that can access this. Other light workers, healers have the ability to access this too. And one of the most useful ways to connect with this mycelium is to undergo a full DNA activation, which is something I also offer to people. And it's an integral part of the training, People who train with me have a full DNA activation, which involves having all 13 helixes activated. Most people in the scientific world are only aware of 2, but there are a total of 13. So this is how we do our cosmic journeying, and that's what this journey of lifetimes is about. And so on this journey, we first of all go to 2 planets in the Andromeda galaxy in the binary star system, and every time I have the opportunity to go on this journey, I learn more and more and more about the inhabitants of these 2 planets, and this is a wonderful, great gift. And when the people that I'm working with on the journey of lifetimes, we've thoroughly explored those, and I'll explain. So when we arrive, and I give a little bit of introduction, and they have their own experience of these 2 planets, and they get to meet the beings, the life forms that exist there in their own way. But then when they've done that, they then get a choice, and the choice is they can choose to do their shamanic work from the basis of one or both of these 2 planets, or they can choose to go even further, and most of them choose to go further. And what then happens is a vortex opens up in one of these 2 planets, and it is the portal, it's a connection to this intergalactic mycelium, and they then get to go to a particular place in the universe which is specially for them. And you can imagine what an enjoyment and a pleasure that is, because when they've completed their journeys, and this is something that does take quite some time, at least an hour and a half, sometimes longer, by the time they come back and they've then written everything out in as much detail as they can, they reported the entire experience, I then get to listen to them sharing their experience, and that is such an amazing gift. It's way beyond price. And every time I initiate someone into this, I then learn so much more about the nature of reality. And I remember one of the people I trained, and he arrived on a water world. The entire planet was covered in water, and there were cetaceans and particularly dolphins. There were other life forms there too, but that is his entire shamanic pantheon there in a water planet. And I can think of somebody else, and their planet is heart-shaped, and inside the planet's structure itself, actually in the planet, there are many, many caverns and chambers, and they are full of all sorts of wonderful crystals. And of course, I say of course, it's not obvious to everyone. There's this principle called hylozoism, which comes from Western occultism, and it simply says that everywhere, absolutely everywhere, everything is alive and sentient. So scientists talk about everything being made of atoms and molecules and quarks and subatomic particles. It's all sentient, it's all life. Everything is alive in a fundamental way. So crystals, in fact all rocks, the entire mineral kingdom is very much alive. It's just vibrating on a very different frequency from that of the plants, which vibrates on a different frequency again from the animals and the humans, which vibrates on a different frequency from the extraterrestrials, which vibrates on a different frequency from the angels and the angelic realms. So that's a little taste of what people get to discover when we go on the journey of lifetimes. But from the purely pragmatic point of view of a shamanic practitioner, they've already been working with their guides, but then they get opened up to this whole new possibility. And what I find fascinating about the people I've trained is there's a lot of people I've trained who are like me. They are not from around here. They have a cosmic heritage, and they have a star family as well as a terrestrial family of mother and father and ancestors. And that's true of some of the people I've trained and am training. But for others, this is not the case. And I want to make it really clear there is no distinction in terms of better or worse. They're simply different. And in fact, one of the people I've trained, who is an entirely earthbound trainee, his healing modality of the universal soul retrieval was completely earthbound and utterly beautiful in its own way. I can remember when he read his report about when he did his Journey of Lifetimes, it was to deliver the universal soul retrieval purely earthbound, terrestrially speaking. And there's a particular point where the trainee is doing the universal soul retrieval and they are in the active process of retrieving all lost soul parts from their client in all lifetimes. It's an incredible thing to learn to do. And in his case, all the lost soul parts were concentrated into the energy, the spirit of either one or more pine trees. Now, it's very significant that they should be pine trees because pine, the spirit of the pine tree, which is one of the Celtic tree oracle Ogham sacred trees, it's about cleanliness and cleansing and detoxing. That's what pine is about. It's about the ultimate cleansing. And indeed, you can buy pine resin and you can collect it from pine trees, which I've done with my mum years ago. And I've burnt this in retreats with people, and it's a beautifully cleansing incense in its own right. But back to his experience, when he did this first universal soul retrieval for his client, all of the soul parts were recovered into the pine trees, and his client's energy body was in the healing realms, lying on the earth, and the pine trees reached their tips and bent all the way down with their great flexibility, and they touched the tips of their treetops onto the energy body of the client, and all of the soul parts poured in through the pine trees into the heart of the client. And that's one that's always been with me. So much love to you, Raj. I remember that journey that you shared with me. So the Journey of Lifetimes, that is one of the most ineffable experiences in my life of being a shamanic practitioner. Thank you very much for listening. And I feel I want to end this in a different way from what I normally do. First of all, I don't insult people's intelligence by anxiously saying, please like, comment and describe. No, don't bother to do that unless you're moved to. You're intelligent enough to know what you like, what you want to comment on, or what you want to subscribe to. That's none of my business. But what I do want to end on is one of the most simple, straightforward, powerful mantras. And the reason why this is such a cool mantra, which I've never shared with people, is because it's one of the most well-known mantras. And as far as the rishis, that's the Indian Ayurvedic Vedic sages, are concerned, this is actually the sound that created our universe, and it goes something like this. Om Shanti Shanti Om. All love to you.